Getting closer?
Getting closer.
Any phone numbers yet?
Don't see any.
Okay. Rob, I assume you'll let us know when you started the YouTube stream?
We are rolling.
All right. Matt, what time do you have?
I have 3:30.
How are you looking for numbers?
We are still about 8 short.
Okay. Well, let's get the meeting started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Washington State University Faculty Senate meeting this Thursday, October 8th, 2020. We're going to get started right away with our guest presenters, Melanie Newley, Catherine Cooper, and Jill McCluskey. They have a PowerPoint presentation as well as other good things for us regarding the Washington State University salary study. Over to you, ladies.
Hi, I'll go ahead and start it off and then hand it off to Jill. So, Jill, did you want to share your screen with the PowerPoint presentation?
Sure.
Thanks. So this is a report of the salary side of the salary equity study that we've been conducting. That we worked on the salary side over the past year. This is a task force driven by APAC, Faculty Senate, AFW, and CSW in partnership with the Provost Office, IR, HRS, CCR, and I think I got everybody on there. Jill McCluskey and her student Jess Tibbetts conducted the analysis. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Jill. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. The purpose of this study, we were charged with looking at with planning and oversight of an annual salary equity study of the WSU system. And it's been motivated by the need to develop a robust statistical approach to be used on a biannual basis for WSU employees and to guide data-driven recommendations for policy that promote institutional salary equity and provide unit leadership with the contextual information of the salaries of their employees. So this study is a high-level review of WSU salary information, and it shows trends that can be used to inform future institutional actions and policy decisions. But we want to add that it does not, in and of itself, demonstrate pay inequity for any individual. And so a pay inequity review requires an analysis of all factors related to the individual. So this is on a statistical level, not an individual level. So just a preview of our findings. The summary statistics show that there is a gender disparity in salary and promotion. And when we control for variables including experience, academic rank in field, career track faculty earn approximately 6.4% less than their male counterparts in the career track sample, and this was statistically significant. Also, when controlling for variables including experience, rank, field, within tenure line faculty, women earn 2.6% less annual salary than men on average. And this is statistically significant at the 90% level of confidence. The summary statistics and regressions control for many variables, including experience, academic rate, and field, and they don't provide any evidence of ethnic or racial disparity at WSU. But we'll discuss that a little bit more. And some control variables, most notably race and ethnicity, have some missing data, and we'll talk about it below. So we used institutional research annual data, employment information for each faculty's pay rate, their sex, their tenure status, their year of employment at WSU, their full-time equivalency appointment, their appointment, either 9 or 12 months, their rank or title, and their academic unit in college. The individual faculty ethnicity comes from CCR. We wanted to make sure that we were controlling for things such as part-time faculty. So anyone with an FTE of less than 0.75 were not included in the study. So our sample consists of 1,704 faculty members for the year 2019. 1966 of those were tenure line faculty and 738 were career track faculty. The library faculty are not included in this analysis. So just looking at the descriptive statistics for the career track faculty, we see that on average, male faculty members make $85,875 and women make $73,996 on average. And this is with experience, male faculty have almost 7 years experience, 697, and women have 7.35. So there's that difference. And women make up 54% of the faculty. And you can see we include all the different titles that people have. We also have categories for race and ethnicity. We also have a significant number of people also decline to state. So that means that not all of our race and ethnicity data is included. On the tenure line faculty, there's also a difference in salary. So the male faculty in tenure line have, on average, make $128,968, and women on average make $106,929. So there's a pretty large difference. Some interesting things that we looked at. Well, there's a difference in experience, both years of final degree and years at WSU between men and women. But something that's interesting, and we call this variable early tenure, but it could also be senior hires. So it's people who earned tenure in less than 6 years at WSU. And so it could be that they were actually a case of early tenure, or it could be that they were hired as a senior hire and hired even with tenure. So men are much more likely to receive, to be in that category of early tenure. So 23% of men were in that category and only 10% of women were in that category. There's also a significant difference in ranks. And so if we look at assistant professors in 2019, they're pretty close to being equal. They're 109 male assistant professors and 101 female assistant professors. And since we have fewer women, it's actually a higher percentage of women that are at the assistant professor level. Then as we increase to associate professors, the difference becomes larger. So 210 versus 133 of men versus women. And then at the full professor level, it's more than twice as many. So the male, we have 267 men who are at the full professor level, and women, we have only 109. And then at the highest level of Regents professors, we have 20 active Regents professors who were men and only 4 active Regents professors who are women. So now let's look at our modeling approach. So the way that we analyze this is a standard way to understand how different factors affect pay. So this is called a hedonic price equation. And so we're trying to explain what factors affect salary. And so a standard way of doing this is to take the log of salary, and it's one of the best fits of how the functional form for the data. And so we have salary as a function of different factors which might affect it. So we have the data. So the variables that explain it. So one explanatory variable would be female, and so that variable equals 1 if the faculty member is female and 0 otherwise. And the coefficient on that beta 1 is our coefficient of interest, and so we want to see if that variable is statistically significant in explaining salary. And so we are estimating tenure line and tenure track faculty separately, and we argue that the within group comparisons are more appropriate than between group comparisons for these groups. So in the tenure line, research is more valued. In the career track, instruction is more valued, although it's valued for both sides. And then we also want to make sure that everyone understands that there's a caveat that there might be inherent biases in the control variables or the explanatory variables. And so because of gender biases that might be present in hiring or promotion or awarding for tenure, it can also be useful to estimate models where these control variables are omitted or not included. And so, for example, if faculty rank is one of the things that explains salary, it's a control variable, it may understate the gender gap by masking the possible biases in the promotion process. Well, so here's our first regression analysis, where these are the variables that are explaining salary. We have the first column is the full data set altogether, and then we have separate columns. We estimate male and female separately. And then in the fourth column, we are testing whether the coefficients are significantly different between men and women. And so the main thing I wanted to point out here is that we have in the full sample, when we have just an indicator variable for female, the coefficient on that is statistically significant and negative. And that means that women if that variable has a negative effect on salary, and it's significant. I'll keep going. And then we also, in part of this regression, we also we included variables for locations, including the Pullman campus, Spokane Tri-Cities, and other locations. And we also have the ethnicity variables. And as you can see, that there are no negative and significant variables in the ethnicity variables. And and we see that, so by that we would argue that there's no evidence of bias due to race and ethnicity. There's a caveat though, that there are missing data, so people that decline to state, and that might be non-random. And then the other thing that we need to be concerned about is that we're using very small numbers here sometimes in different categories. And so if there's only, let's say there's only 5 people in one group, and there's one person who makes a higher salary, that can influence the outcome. Okay, so now moving on to the tenure line faculty. Oh no, I'm sorry. We also, in the career track faculty, we control for the various units, and due to the constraints on sample size, we combine some units and colleges. But so for example, arts includes performing arts, and or one that I would probably know better is plant sciences, includes plant pathology and other areas. And so they are combined, and we can see that something like this can help us see if there are issues within departments, and we can see that some are definitely statistically significantly different. So just to provide an example, nursing, for female, it's negative and significantly different. Okay. Now moving on to the tenure line faculty, we see that we also have a negative and statistically significant variable for women. And we also, interestingly, we have a negative effect of experience, and that could be that when accounting for other things, people who have been here a long time and say are not promoted, for example, it might be a negative. It might actually be a negative. we can see that there are some differences. Just similar to the career track, we have no evidence of any bias in the race and ethnicity, with the caveat we had before. And we have some significant results across in the specific departments. So from this, we have a full report that's available for everyone to see, and it also breaks it down at the college level. We have some recommendations. So our recommendations in terms of long term is that a standing advisory committee should be established with representatives from the important groups, and a biannual study should be conducted. So a study every 2 years by WSU Institutional Research with guidance from the advisory committee, and they could follow the practices that were developed in this analysis. College level reports, which we have in the appendix, we won't go through, should also be provided to help deans and department chairs understand decisions around salary, and they should be able to provide explanations if there are outliers in that. And then some of the immediate interventions that we should consider is some of the review practices that might potentially introduce inequities. So examples could be senior hires. So our senior hires mostly men, and why is that? Who gets early tenure? Who gets retention raises? Are there differences in initial salaries? Often initial salaries are the things that are what drives the salaries long term. And then also our administrative salaries and compensation different across gender. We also wanted to add that there are limitations, and I went over this a little bit before, that our summary statistics show that women are hired and promoted at lower rates than men. And so including these variables that might be biased might actually understate the salary. And so when we omit rank, then we see that women earn on average almost 7% less than their male counterparts. And it's because the men at the higher ranks people at higher ranks make more money. And if we don't account for that, then there's a bigger difference and there's more men at the higher ranks. We also want to point out that the findings and conclusions are based on a statistical analysis of aggregate data. And so nothing in this report should be understood or intended as a statement or interpretation of law. Nothing is based on or intended to be a determination or finding under university policies. And individual concerns about pay equity require more detailed review of specific factors that are present based on the context of an individual employment. And this factor-based analysis may include some, but not necessarily all of the of a non-exhaustive list, and it could include performance measures, productivity measures, job duties, relevant work experience, education, and other factors that were outside of the scope of this study. And so we're continuing to work on this. We are currently working on a staff analysis, and because there's a lot more variety in staff positions, this analysis will be more complicated. We also have an analysis of salaries by college and campuses in the full report, and that's available. And I think we can, I'm not sure, Katie, how you want to make that available, but it's available for you. And so with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and leave it open to questions. Thank you.
Do any senators have any questions for Jill or Catherine or Melanie this afternoon? Well, hearing none.
Matt Carroll here.
Go ahead, Matt Carroll.
Matt Carroll here. Jill, do you have the gender breakdown between tenure track and career track faculty members? Now, is there a gender disparity there?
Yeah, and that's included in the report. So the career track has more women and the tenure track has more men. So career track has about 53% female, so just a bit more women, and tenure track has I think it's tenure track has 36.5% women.
So that in itself has implications for salary equity broadly across the university, then, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay.
I put a question in the chat. This is Chris Page in Extension CED. Just wondering if there's any talk or plans or intentions to conduct a similar type of study on race and ethnicity.
We did include race and ethnicity variables in this analysis, and we did not find significance.
Okay, I couldn't tell if you were saying there was no difference or that they weren't considered. Thank you.
I just want to point out that, again, that data is very limited, and that a good portion of it are include people that do not report or choose not to report. And so there's missing data from that analysis as well, which makes it incredibly hard to do the analysis.
Understood.
Any other questions this afternoon? If you have any, please speak up. Hearing none, I would like to thank all three people who came here to present this afternoon. This was an incredible amount of work, and I think we all applaud their efforts, and I think this reveals some important information that we can use moving forward as an institution. Thank you again, ladies. Much appreciated.
Thank you. I will work on the best way to distribute the full report.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks, all.
Wonderful. All right, the executive secretary tells me that we have a quorum, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we will start with the approval of the minutes from the September 24th meeting. Are there any corrections to the September 24th meetings? If there are no corrections, the minutes stand approved, and we will move on to announcements. I'd like to start with information items. Faculty Senate officers met with the provost and several vice provosts on September 29th. It was a wonderful meeting. It lasted about an hour. Very, very productive. And I really feel I have to tell you that the executive committee of the Faculty Senate is really excited to work with the provost and the provost's staff. We have a wonderful working relationship with them, and we're just very, very happy with the collaboration. The second information item, minor change bulletin number 2. That's located in Exhibit B. And information item number 3, the Graduate Studies Committee has approved new bylaws for the kinesiology program, and these are available on the department's website. Moving on to reports, remarks by the chair. I'd like you all to know that we continue to move forward with the search for a vice provost for enrollment management. Obviously, a lot of this information needs to remain confidential, but I can tell you that we have 3 people that are coming in. We had one earlier this week who's interviewed, and I'm a member of that search committee, and I'm going to tell you that we're really excited about the candidates that we have. Secondly, I would really like to congratulate all of the newly elected senators. Thank you for running. We have a large number of people attending this afternoon. We achieved quorum quite easily, so thank you, folks. And then finally, I'd like to let the chair-elect talk to you a little bit about executive policy number 2. Doug, would you like to take it over?
Sure, just a real quick update. First of all, thank you everybody who provided feedback to the blog site at the Faculty Senate website regarding that Executive Policy 2. This has to do with the redistribution or the changing policy and how we distribute F&A across the system and in departments and schools. We've summarized that information and provided all of that plus the original blog and some additional information to the Office of Research. They've asked to meet with me tomorrow for some further discussions, and my plan is to put a new post on the blog site as of Monday with an update of what that entailed. And Dr. Keene is going to be presenting to us on the 22nd here at the actual Faculty Senate meeting. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Doug. Moving on, do we have any additions or changes to today's agenda? Hearing no changes, the agenda stands as it is, and we will move to our action items this afternoon. Action item number 1 is a recommendation from the steering committee to approve the Faculty Senate committees. Is there any discussion regarding this action item? Hearing none, all of those in favor of the recommendation from the steering committee to approve the Faculty Senate committees, say aye.
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 All of those opposed to action item number 1, say nay, please. All right, action item number 1 passes. Moving on to action item number 2, the recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the revision to Rule 15, credit by examinations. And Debbie Handy is here to answer any questions. Do we have any discussion regarding action item number 2? Hearing none, all of those in favor of the recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the revision to Rule 15, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
All of those opposed to action item number 2, please say nay. Action item number 2 passes. Moving on to action item number 3, the recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the UCOR Bulletin number 1. Debbie Handy is available. Any discussion regarding action item number 3? Hearing none, all of those in favor of the recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the UCOR Bulletin number 1, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
All of those opposed to action item number 3, please say nay. Action item number 3 passes. Moving on to action item number 4. The recommendation from the Office of the Provost to change the spring academic calendar for spring 2021. After careful consideration, engaging in a system-wide conversation with the chancellors and other administrators and reviewing the feedback to date from Washington State University faculty senators, the provost asks the Faculty Senate to consider a revised proposal to change the academic calendar for spring 2021 for the entire Washington State University system. The chancellors also support and endorse this proposal. The following plan is being proposed for the Faculty Senate's consideration. Start the spring 2021 semester on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021, rather than on Monday, January 11th, 2021, and eliminate spring break. Number 2, identify and implement 3 one-day academic breaks where classes are not taught. The one-day academic breaks will be allocated 1 day per month during the months of February, March, and April. Pending proposal approval by the Faculty Senate, the dates will be identified in collaboration with the Vice Provost for Academic Engagement and Student Achievement, the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, and the Office of the Registrar. President's Day on Monday, February 15th will continue to be observed as a class holiday, and university offices will remain open. The spring 2021 semester will end as normally scheduled. Final examinations will begin on Monday, May 3rd, 2021, and end on Friday, May 7th, 2021. Now, I know one of the senators has already contacted me, and we'll open this up for discussion now. Michael Kahn, are you ready to make an amendment to this proposal?
Yes, I'd like to offer a friendly amendment. The way that this change has been implemented, classes start on Wednesday. If classes started on Tuesday, it wouldn't change the structure of Tuesday, Thursday classes. Martin Luther King Day was already a holiday in the old schedule. It's still a holiday in this schedule. By starting on Tuesday, the normal Tuesday, Thursday arrangement could remain. So the idea would be to change that start date from January 20th to January 19th.
Okay, so the amendment would reword things to say start the spring 2021 semester on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Do I understand that correctly, Michael?
Yes.
All right, do I hear a second?
I second that.
Okay, any discussion regarding the amendment to this proposal?
Yes, Matt Carroll, School of the Environment. I heard from my own colleagues who teach lab courses a concern about starting in the middle of the week. The problem is if you cancel a lab for one section of a class, and you have to cancel it for the entire class. And I'm wondering if my colleague would consider altering his amendment to suggest that we actually start on a Monday, because that would make even weeks and make scheduling of lab classes more user friendly, I guess.
That Monday is Martin
Matt?
Luther King Day.
Oh, okay. I see the problem.
Hi. Dave, just so, since I don't know who actually, I don't know who made the motion to accept this. So if we're in the discussion period, I'm not sure where we are in Robert's rules here, but since I submitted the request to Faculty Senate, I will say that the main reason for not starting 2 full weeks later, as we had originally anticipated, is that a lot of the feedback we got focused around the fact that by eliminating spring break, that really we needed to recognize that people needed some mental and physical breaks given our virtual existence these days. And so if we started 2 full weeks late, then also it would eliminate our ability to have these sort of 1 day breaks spread throughout the semester, just to give people a little bit of a break. So just explaining why we did that.
Thank you, Provost Chilton. Any more discussion regarding the amendment to the proposal?
I have a question. This is Robin.
Yeah, Robin.
Hi. So if I'm hearing the proposal correctly, we would start on the, I'm sorry, I don't have a calendar, January 19th.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
the
so that would effectively push us back, going from the 11th to the 19th. If we're only eliminating 1 week at the beginning, why are we eliminating spring break? If we agree to the proposal on the 19th.
Well, the reason for eliminating spring break is because of public health concerns. A number of our peers around the country are eliminating spring break, similar to why a number of institutions that are offering in-person classes this semester are not having classes after Thanksgiving. What they don't want is to send students all home, have them home for several days. In this case, it would be an entire week. And then they all come back, especially because we are going to have we're working towards some kind of arrival COVID testing for students, certainly those who are living on campus, along with the quarantine period. And so to have to send them all away again for, actually it would be more than a week if you count the weekends, and then bring them all back. So the elimination of spring break was done very targeted for public health reasons, and is a national trend if you look at what a number of other schools around the country are doing and announcing.
And Robin, I do want to add, this is Mary Jo Gonzalez, Vice President for Student Affairs. The majority of the outbreaks, and I'm talking about 99% of them that happened in the spring, came back from students who went on spring break. They've tracked it to Mexico, they tracked it to Kentucky and Florida. So for me, it's really important that we ensure that we don't create that environment for students to bring that back to the Pullman community.
Folks, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we've gotten way off track. The movement on the floor right now is an amendment to the proposal, and it has to do with with changing the word Wednesday to Tuesday and the date from the 20th to 19th. We need to limit the discussion to that amendment, please. Is there any discussion?
Well,
yeah, this is Vaughn Walden. I have one quick question for the provost. And so the original Wednesday date was just to allow these extra days off per month. So do you have any opposition to moving it towards Tuesday, to that Tuesday?
No, I don't have any opposition at all, with the caveat that we do need to then figure out when those days will be scattered throughout the semester and still make sure that we have enough Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday classes. That would be the only caveat. And without knowing what those days off will be, I can't say that right now, but I don't, on the face of it, have any objection to the friendly amendment.
But by starting on Tuesday, you would have an even number. You would have you would have a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Wednesday and a Friday
Right.
to eliminate. Okay. Which would help the Tuesday, Thursday classes.
Yes.
Thank you.
David, this is Darrell Mueling from the Carson College of Business. I know that we're talking only about bullet point 1 in the proposal, but I do think that there's some things that in bullet point 2 that should be discussed, because I think they're interrelated. And so I don't know how to propose Robert's rules so that we table the proposal that's on the floor now and discuss the second bullet point before going back to a vote of the first amendment, friendly amendment.
It's not a problem, Darrell, if your comments, regardless of which bullet point they refer to, deal with changing Wednesday to Tuesday and the 20th to the 19th. It's not a problem.
Well, maybe I'm misinterpreting, but I would be more inclined to eliminate the 3 one-day academic breaks, just because I think that's going to cause just as much travel from students that are living in Pullman going home for 3 times as opposed to 1 time for spring break. And so, I would eliminate those and then propose that we start on a Monday. I teach, and many do in the Carson College of Business, we teach 5-week or 7-week courses to non-traditional students who tend to do most of their work on the weekends, and starting on a Tuesday wouldn't be as bad, but starting on a Wednesday would be a disaster for them to try to complete work in a timely fashion. So I don't know, again, just discussion here, whether we want to discuss whether we're going to accept the friendly amendment, or do we need to have more discussion in the second bullet point?
Dave, I just would note that our intention would not be to make 3-day weekends throughout the semester, because I agree that was something that was raised. Obviously, President's Day will stand, so that will be 1 3-day weekend, but the other extra days, so to speak, our idea is to scatter them throughout the semester so that we're not creating more 3-day weekend opportunities if possible. for the reasons that were just stated by Daryl.
All right, any more discussion regarding the amendment to change Wednesday to Tuesday and the 20th to the 19th?
This is Catherine Van Sun from the School of Nursing, the College of Nursing. And we'd like to keep the original schedule because of our clinical placements, which have been an issue. And I see that there was a potential exceptions at the end of the document for the health sciences on Spokane, as well as the College of Veterinary Medicine. But the College of Nursing needs to have that as well. I also think that some of the discussion we're having is really Pullman-based and not really appropriate or meet the needs of all the other campuses that we have.
Mm-hmm. I will note that we would offer exceptions for any colleges, and we've checked with our accreditors to ensure that we could offer exceptions in cases such as what you mentioned, Catherine. But we have actually, I've talked twice now with the chancellors of the other campuses, and they are very supportive of this proposal. I've shared it with them. As long as there can be health science related exceptions for those that have partnerships with other institutions, et cetera. They were all very supportive for this proposal.
Okay, thank you
Folks,
very
again,
much.
I'm really sorry, but we're getting way off track. We have an amendment on the floor, and the amendment is to change the proposal from Wednesday to Tuesday and the 20th to the 19th. We need to limit our discussion to that amendment, please. Is there any discussion regarding that amendment?
Hi, this is Julie Akers in pharmacy, and I do have a question specific to that amendment. In our discussions on our campus, getting our exception through the chancellor, the 20th was specifically mentioned, and I put it in the chat as potentially the date chosen because of the Department of Education and the federal financial aid and the exception that was put in for online versus face-to-face and hybrids. And I just am curious if that, if moving to the 19th and those that picked that date, if that's just urban legend on our campus or if there was actually some validity into selecting that date. And I would hate to move it to the 19th and we, whatever that looks like, and then there could be potential changes to financial aid options. So just hoping to get clarification. I know that will help me and potentially others that have heard that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie. Provost Shelton?
Yes, thank you for that question. There is not a date out there that we know for certain that we will know what the U.S. Department of Education's decision is about remote instruction for the spring. We know that we will know nothing until after the election. One of the reasons why we wanted to start the semester later was to give us a little time, depending on which way the election goes. Actually, either way that it goes, we may need time to make adjustments and pivot in one direction or another. So one day will not make a huge difference, given that we really don't know what that date will be at this time.
Thank you.
All right, just so we understand, we are not voting on the proposal. We are voting on the amendment to the proposal. So all of those in favor of changing the word Wednesday to the word Tuesday and the date from January 20th to January 19th, please say aye.
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 All right, all of those opposed to the amendment, please say nay.
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 Okay, the ayes have it. The proposal has been amended to Tuesday, January 19th. Now, back to the entire proposal. Do I hear any discussion regarding the entire proposal now?
I have a question about the three break days. So if we are working with two types of classes, classes that are taught on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and classes that are taught on Tuesday, Thursday, will there be an impact on one of those two classes more than the other, since we've got 3 days to be divided up over two different types of teaching?
Provost Chilton?
Well, I think that that with the friendly amendment, I think there would now be 4 days. Am I correct? That we would be scattering throughout the semester? I'm not looking at a calendar.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yes. Mary Wack is on here. Mary, do you wish to say anything about that? I think we could work with the registrar and make sure that they're evenly distributed.
Yes, I think so. I have heard input, as many of you have, about the challenge of lab courses. And I think our overriding concern would be to balance out where those days occur so that no meeting pattern would be more impacted than another. And as Alexander points out in the chat, Mondays are, there are a couple of holidays already impacting the Monday, Wednesday, Friday courses. So we would take that into account as we look at distributing the days throughout the semester.
So Provost Chilton, do I understand you correctly that now you would like to see a change in the proposal that would change the wording, identify and implement 3 one-day academic breaks to say identify and implement 4 one-day academic breaks?
Right, we would have to do that because of the friendly amendment.
All right, do I hear a senator who's willing to make a proposal to amend the document to say 4 one-day academic breaks rather than 3? Anybody?
David, let me interrupt because I want to talk more about the 3-day, and I think we're getting ahead of ourselves if we're already proposing 3 to 4. So
go ahead, Darryl.
I guess if somebody wants to go ahead and propose it and there's a second, we can vote on it, but I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here.
I'd rather discuss it a little more.
And also, can we clarify why adding 1 extra day on the calendar gives an extra day off? I don't understand why it goes to 3 to 4 just because we move the date up, we start 1 day.
Anybody like to answer that?
I'm afraid I don't understand the question.
Well, I don't understand. We have 3 days right now in the wording that students will get off for a semester. So what we're saying is we need to add a 4th day to that because we moved up the start date 1 day? Or am I misunderstanding what we're proposing?
No, you're understanding it correctly.
So can somebody explain why moving it up 1 day gives them gives an additional day off? Why do we need that? Why can't it still be 3? What am I missing?
So I would like to ask a comment. I agree with you because now we're only starting 1 week late and we've eliminated spring break. So we're still at 15 instructional days, or I'm sorry, in 15 instructional weeks. And so it appears as though we're scattering the spring break days throughout the semester rather than having it all in one collective week.
Can I ask a slightly different question related to this? So we're starting a week late. That takes away spring break. My concern, again, coming back to these days where we make a break, when we have 3 50-minute classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that's 2.5 hours of instruction for that course. The Tuesday, Thursday courses are 1 hour and 15 minutes on Tuesday and Thursday, which is 2.5 hours of instruction per week for that course. So my concern, which is what I was trying to bring up earlier, is when we make these breaks, are we having a mathematical impact that's greater on one of those two groups than the other? And I teach on Tuesday, Thursday, and I would really hate to lose more time than is being lost by other classes. My course is set up for X number of lectures throughout the semester.
That is why I suggested in the proposal, because I knew there may be friendly amendments that were coming from the floor today, that I work with the Faculty Senate leadership and with the registrar's office to try to make sure we're placing those days off in a way that ensures that we're maintaining the same number of contact hours for all of our courses. That was the goal of that, but I would really need to, roll up our sleeves and get the calendar out and.
No, it was just.
I guess I need more rationale for why there's a need for the academic breaks. Many of these courses are going to be online, asynchronous. I think we're making it more complicated by trying to deal with these breaks. Why not we just remove the breaks, start, I guess it would be 2 weeks early, or we could do 1 week early and then we would be done before finals week. This just seems to add a complication. Is there any data to support that students need these one-day breaks, especially if they're not weekend breaks? I just don't see the rationale for it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can help me.
Yeah, I don't know, Mary Jo, if you want to speak to this at all from a student affairs perspective, but certainly this was something that in the Tri-Cities campus in particular, that I heard loud and clear that there was a desire from students to really just give them a break from staring at their computers all day. And, whereas faculty might be teaching 2 to 4 classes, students are taking at least that every day, and sometimes also working jobs and having childcare issues, and just to give them some breaks throughout the semester. I did also want to point out, I want to make it more complicated, and Mary Wack could speak to this, but one of the reasons why the math is not adding up for some of you is that we actually have 1 more week in our academic schedule in the spring than we need for accreditation purposes. So we could theoretically start 2 weeks late, eliminate spring break, and be fine. So basically subtract 2 weeks and add 1 week and still have enough weeks for our accreditors. So by just simply, instead of starting 2 weeks late, starting essentially 1 week late, then we gain those days that we can add for some mental health breaks for our students and for our faculty as well. So that was just something that was requested by folks.
I would also like to say to that I think it's dangerous to have this attitude of students are just taking classes online. It's not that big of a deal. They can go without a break. We've been working from home for a significant amount of time. Classes online shouldn't be any easier than our online classes. They are dealing with a lot, and staring at your computer screen on Zoom all day weighs on you no matter where you are. So this attitude of we shouldn't have breaks is not a big deal. We're just on our computers. I think we should be very careful with that, because for a lot of students and faculty, it is a big deal and they do need the breaks.
I think that was directed at me, so let me respond. I wasn't suggesting that. I'm just thinking that there's more flexibility. I teach online classes. I also teach face-to-face courses. There's more flexibility built into a face-to-face or into an online course. Doesn't mean that every day, 7 days a week in an online course, any more than a face-to-face course, the student has to be in front of his or her computer. In fact, I would propose let's not implement specifically 3 days, but let faculty decide what day works best for them in the course of the semester. Give it some flexibility. So please don't misinterpret my comments earlier as suggesting that it's less rigorous or more tedious for students. I recognize how it is, because I'm on the giving end and sometimes the receiving end of this as well.
Well, maybe rather than having faculty decide for themselves, because that would end up having 1 class off and students still having to attend other classes that same day. Can we work with a flexible attendance policy, which we've already been implementing, and allow students just a little bit more flexibility in attendance in that way within our classes?
I wish that Craig Parks was able to attend. He's not here today, but Mary, maybe you would want to say something. I think there's an accreditation issue here where we need to be able to demonstrate which are class days and which are not class days. And so that's why I, included that language that we would work with the Faculty Senate, we would work with the registrar and the vice provost for, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
what else I said. But
Right.
Mary, do you want to speak to that as well? Am I right about that?
Sure. Yeah. There, especially in the spring, there was a lot of challenge around the region and also nationally with insufficient contact between faculty and students in the remote teaching environment. And this is a subject of great concern to the accreditors because of the number of complaints they got from around the region. And so we have essentially been put on notice that we need to be very careful in the ways that we structure our engagement with students and in our calendaring of when faculty and students are in contact with each other. So that is supporting what Elizabeth just explained.
Okay, do I hear a motion for amendment to change the wording from identify and implement 3 one-day academic breaks to say identify and implement 4 one-day academic breaks? Do I hear a motion? All right. Not hearing a motion, more discussion about the proposal in general?
We do have a virtual hand raised in the participant panel. I know that's not easy to see on the Polycom room system you have there, but Brad does have a comment.
Who is it?
I'm trying to unmute him. Brad Goliff.
Oh, it's Brad.
Sorry.
Brad.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This is just a comment from one of my constituents that I think they're in general in favor with the policy, but they were just wondering if there's any consideration given to the fact that we're now starting after Martin Luther King holiday and most of the activities associated with that the university did, and sort of how that relates to given this past year and Black Lives Matter and all of that, that we now will be missing that opportunity to engage students around the holiday and traditional activities.
Yeah, that is a great point. I think we would have to make it Martin Luther King week, and we would have to work with the Martin Luther King Center and make sure that we were doing appropriate recognition, both before students arrive back for the semester and then during that whole week, to make sure that we're properly recognizing that event and the importance in today. So
I agree with what's being said. Sorry, I agree with what's being said, but I was wondering how much of this would be even a face-to-face event. The Martin Luther King holiday events, would they be in person on campus versus some type of online virtual celebration of Martin Luther King?
Elizabeth, would you like me to answer that question?
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so all of the events, Brad, and you, Daryl, are talking about is that would actually happen the week. It typically happens the week of that Wednesday or of that Monday. And there are also some weekend events prior to, including a day of service. But Daryl, you're absolutely correct. Many of these events will not be allowed to be in person. We don't imagine that we will be going into that environment. So we will adjust and work with the Martin Luther King Committee, who is a combination of faculty, staff, and students, including our keynote speech, which is usually on the Wednesday of that week. So we'll make sure that that's taken care of and modify that so that any of those event dates would be covered.
Tammy Berry, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I have condensed down a lot of feedback I've received from constituents into some little blurbs. But this announcement about the change has initiated a lot of feedback to me from different constituents in CAS. And so I'm just going to share what I have heard from them. So this isn't my thoughts so much as constituent thoughts. And it's 6 little blurbs. I'll go really quickly. Several people have written me noting that they prefer the proposed change as it was last presented, and I'm sure they would be fine with this friendly amendment as well. Noting it's safer, they agree with all the comments in the proposal about the staggered move-in and the testing and not traveling mid-semester for spring break that would lead to another rise. And they appreciate the provost and the university community looking at putting the community first and thinking about our safety. Several have noted what we've been hearing a little bit today about preferring a spring break, that January to May is a long haul and not having a spring break would be detrimental to mental health. Even with the one-day breaks, they're concerned that those wouldn't be helpful for physical and mental health, just to be a day here and there scattered rather than a whole week off. And the way to make that a little bit better would be to make them 3-day weekends, but then other people have concerns, as Provost Chilton mentioned, about 3-day weekends being just as detrimental as spring break because people would travel. So it's like this sort of circular problem. That covers 3 things. Pedagogy was another thing that came up, that some people suggest that they really need the full 15 weeks for actual instruction, not counting the finals week. That they actually suggested a friendly amendment of moving finals week back a week, but I wouldn't suggest that because I know from our discussion 2 weeks ago that that's not a possibility because other programs need that time, and they would want to. I mean, that there's already plans for that week, so we can't just move the whole thing back. There is this concern about the pedagogy. Kind of related to that, it was brought to my attention that there's concerns that students and parents will actually complain about paying tuition for one less week of instruction. I'm not sure if that really would be a concern, but it was brought to my attention. And then the last one that I really want to make clear, and I saw Debbie Handy brought up a question in the chat about it as well, was about the impact on staff. And will expanding the December closure happen where they're required to take leave during the delayed semester start change their leave time at all? My guess is not, but I think we need to communicate that really clearly to staff. They were also concerned about with the classes, the days that classes are closed are off, with the university be closed. So now these 4-day breaks potentially, or 3, I guess it still is, I'm not sure. Would that be days they had to take off and take leave or even not get paid? I think there's some concern because of the budget environment that is a foot in the door to furlough. That actually got mentioned to me. And I responded with a very positive, I know that's not the case. The university's open on spring break anyway. This is just shifting things around for COVID. It's not a way to get staff using more leave or getting paid less. But that's me speaking, not anyone in charge. So I think that messaging needs to be considered in the FAQs and also just clearly communicated to staff. So thanks for the time.
Yes, thank you. I so appreciate that, Tammy, and you absolutely hit the nail on the head. Your response was exactly what we will and should put into any FAQs. I think I really just wanted to wait to see if we were doing this, and then as we roll it out, we need to communicate what this really means for staff as much as for faculty and students. So thank you.
Can I ask
Alex,
for a
you
point
have
of
your hand
clarification?
up. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so am I understanding it correctly that as of now, we do not have permission for remote instruction for the spring semester?
From the U.S. Department of Education. And what that would affect is if they did not change that and we had remote instruction or majority remote instruction in the spring, that our students who receive federal financial aid would no longer be eligible.
And I bring it back to that because I think we need to keep in mind what one of the limiting factors is in how we start the spring semester. And if we don't know whether or not we're going to be allowed remote instruction, that is going to make a really big impact on faculty's ability to prepare for the spring semester, regardless of what the schedule is.
Yes, and that's exactly right. I mean, and that's not something we can control. Certainly, we hope that after the presidential election at the beginning of November, that it will become clear which way the wind is blowing on this particular issue. Right now, the wind isn't blowing at all. There's been no hints as to which way this will go. And, you know, if Trump was reelected and Betsy DeVos was still in place, it is possible that the state of Washington could take them to court over that in terms of essentially forcing institutions to be in person. So, you know, it could unravel and take a long time to unravel. We just figured, you know, a little bit of a late start would help us get a handle on that, depending on which way it was going, aside from the fact that it also allows for staggered move-in and quarantining with an arrival testing program. So thank you for that question.
All right, Alex, you had your hand up?
Yes, can you hear
Alex?
me?
Yes.
So I have one comment and one friendly amendment. Comment is following up on Eric. He probably covered most of it, but in Vancouver, one concern that came up is that student veterans start receiving their financial aid after the beginning of the semester, and that delay would affect them. So we should be aware of that and possibly plan how to ameliorate their financial situation. Of course, that may be for everybody that's receiving federal aid. So Eric's comment added to that. The amendment, for the reasons described, that a lot of Mondays tend to be holidays, I would like to amend point 2 to explicitly say the free days shall not occur on any given Monday. So that's my comment and proposed amendment.
Provost Chilton, do you have a reaction to that?
Well, I think it sounds fine, although I might prefer, since I really do think that the registrar needs to work with Faculty Senate leadership and my office on just choosing which of the days and making sure that all of the class periods add up to the same. Do you know what I'm saying? Like sitting here right now, rather than saying it will not be this or it will not be that, I would rather say that we'll work with the Faculty Senate leadership to make sure that those days off are distributed in such a way that all class periods will be able to meet for the same number of hours, rather than.
Alex, will that work for you?
I have a proposal on the table, and I would like the Senate to vote on it.
All right, so we have a motion to add to bullet point number 2 that none of the one-day academic breaks occurs on a Monday. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, Vilma seconds. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a discussion, like to make an amendment to that amendment, to that will say that the days off will be staggered so as to minimize 3-day weekends and to make sure instruction is equal across Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday courses.
Brad, but that's not an amendment to his amendment. I'm sorry.
I'm amending it's not Monday.
Yeah, you're changing
Okay.
the amendment. Sorry. Any more discussion on the addition of the words not any Monday to the second bullet point? Okay, hearing no more discussion, let's vote on the amendment to change the second bullet point to say identify and implement 3 one-day academic breaks. Classes are not taught. The one-day academic breaks will be allocated 1 day per month during the months of February, March, and April, and will not occur on any Monday. All of those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
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 Did you? All of those opposed to the amendment, please say nay.
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 Okay, the nays have it. The amendment fails. Was it Brad that you had another amendment?
Sure, yes, the amendment is that the provost work with appropriate folks to ensure that we don't have 3-day holidays and that we make instruction equal across all course types.
Can you say that again, please?
The provost works with, I don't know the academic structure on who she would work with to ensure that we don't have 3-day weekends and that instruction hours are equal across Monday, Wednesday, Friday courses and Tuesday, Thursday in relation to the 3 days off.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that amendment? Hearing none?
No, I do. So we're still working on 3 days off, but it seemed that based on the President's Day issue, that you could have 4 days off, 2 Tuesday, Thursday, 2 Monday, Wednesday, or whatever Wednesday, and it would make it easier for everyone to actually make the cuts equal across both classes. Is that correct?
The point of my amendment was, instead of trying to hash that out here and now, is we recognize the intent of that and give the power to those who set the schedule.
Okay, fair enough.
And I just wanted to mention that graduate classes often are 1 day a week. So that should be considered as well. So, you know, I think what was just mentioned, it could be that we just do a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday, and then there's also the President's Day, and that might work out. And we need, like Provost Chilton said, they need to sit with the registrar's office and make sure that's the case. But just keeping in mind, if you were to cancel 2 days of the same day of the week, you might be hitting a graduate class for 2 whole weeks.
Exactly. Lisa Gloss is on the call today, and we would work with her team as well to make sure that we're addressing the graduate course schedule.
Thank you.
Dave, can we address Lisa Jones's comment in the chat about how we're measuring yays versus nays here when we're just speaking them?
Yeah, we're doing it by the number of replies.
Sorry, I didn't mean for that to be like a snarky comment either. More just like with Zoom, we have the option of actually doing like polls and stuff. Like maybe we could use the technology to our advantage to have more specificity.
Are you calling division of House on the last vote?
No, I was thinking actually more just looking forward. We're having enough today where people are voting both yay and nay that perhaps it would be nice to have a system in place that is a little bit more systematic as we move forward during this year.
Yeah, we do have a system in place for the vote at the end on this in case it's a close vote.
And you're just guessing whether it's close. Is that our impression? I'm just concerned because I know from teaching that the whims of Zoom audio, like it mutes and unmutes people based on factors that are often based on things like tone of voice that can be discriminatory, but also just, you know, in general, that's not a really reliable system.
No, we're not guessing. It's my judgment call as the chair, and if anybody has a problem, they can always call division of the House, and we will take a vote count. Does that help? Lisa? Hello?
I mean, I understand your position.
Point of order, we have a proposal on the floor.
Yes,
right
we
now?
have an
Excuse me?
amendment on the floor. Any more discussion?
Excuse me, I would like to go back to what Tammy was saying about graduate courses on Wednesdays. I will be teaching my graduate class on Wednesdays next semester and my undergrad class on Tuesday, Thursdays. So the impact will be there, as Tammy was indicating. But, you know, having 4 days for 1 day break throughout the semester, we'll have instructors, I know this, grading during those days. It will not be a true break for those people who teach 4 courses each semester. They will be grading. And
Vilma, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you here. Vilma, you're not talking to the amendment that's on the floor. I'm sorry. We have to discuss the
Yeah,
amendment
but
that's on the floor.
because I raised hand a while ago, and also, you know, the 4 days could be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the week of the 19th, and we could start on the 25th with a break that will allow people to get ready with all the adjustment that we need to do to our syllabi to be ready for the next semester. Having, you know, those breaks, people will be busy working on those days. I know that. And it will be more meaningful to have that full week. And there are 4 days there, and start on the 25th and have a more meaningful winter break.
Sorry to interrupt, but do we have a second on the proposal? Are we discussing something that hasn't been seconded?
No, we have a second.
There was a second.
All right.
So, is there any more
my bad.
discussion?
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion regarding the amendment? And please limit your discussion to the amendment. Thank you. We only have 15 minutes left. All right, hearing no more discussion, then the amendment would state that we would identify and implement 3 one-day academic breaks. Classes are not taught. The one-day academic breaks will be allocated 1 day per month during the months of February, March, and April. And the provost will work with the faculty senate, the vice provost for academic engagement and student achievement, and the faculty senate executive committee and the office of the registrar to see that there are no 3-day weekends, and instruction will be allocated equally across all types of instruction. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, all of those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Nay.
Nay.
All right, the ayes have it. The amendment passes. Back to discussion of the proposal in general, please.
I would
I
like,
would like to propose something very fundamental, and that is that we don't discuss this proposal at all and hold off till the 5th of November when we have a scheduled Senate meeting. And we pass or don't pass whatever proposals at that time. Because I think the chance of students losing financial aid, etc., I mean, these are all hypothetical issues. In terms of probabilities, I would say they're extraordinarily low. So, and maybe those probabilities will change on November 5th. So I feel we shouldn't do anything until then.
Provost Chilton.
So the issue of the U.S. Department of Education is only one of the reasons why we brought this proposal to you. I would say my primary motivation is that we have a global pandemic and that I want to protect the health of our students, our staff, and our faculty. And many institutions across the country have decided to eliminate spring break.
You shouldn't be able to move.
And therefore, in order to eliminate spring break, we would then be starting the semester a week later. The reason for providing some days off throughout the semester is to give our students a break, hopefully our faculty too, but also our students, because we are seeing a rise in mental health issues across our student body. And when they come to our campuses, we want to make sure we're doing best by them. So finally, I would say that we cannot wait because we're releasing the course schedule in mid-October, which will already be 2 weeks later than we normally would. And students need to make a decision about whether what their classes are going to be for spring, and in fact, whether or not they're returning to WSU. So we need to make an announcement by mid-October.
You mentioned that we are postponing by a week, but we are actually postponing by 2 weeks. Is that correct?
No, because the friendly amendment has us starting on January 19th, which is what? Is that 8 days late, right? days after we would have started, right? So the 19th instead of the 11th. That is what the friendly amendment that I accepted on this, and you all passed on this proposal.
All right, any more discussion regarding the proposal before we take this to a vote?
I've got something if I could, please.
Yes, who's this?
This is Jefferson Griffith, Carson College.
Jefferson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of the concerns that we keep bringing up is student and faculty mental health. And one of my primary concerns, I mean, this was one of my concerns when we first went to Zoom over spring break. I was really worried about the students' mental health. And I'm concerned that extending an additional week is, I mean, an extra week of solitude, I can't imagine it's going to be good for students, for helping out their mental health issues.
Well, Mary Jo had to hop off, but we are, because of the arrival testing plan that we're working on, we probably will have a staged move-in, and we're going to have to organize a number of events to make sure we're onboarding students appropriately. So this is really about the academic calendar, and I will work closely with Student Affairs on when the actual move-in dates are going to be for the spring semester.
Daryl Muelling.
The last comment made by the provost may have answered the question. I had some question about what the staggered move-in was going to do. And does that mean that students would still be coming to campus at the regular time, but then be tested and then maybe in their dorms or apartments for an extra week before classes began? And just wondered the rationale for the staggered move-in. I'm not.
Yeah, my understanding is that, first of all, some of our students never really left, even over the summer, because they don't have anywhere else to go home to. So we have a number of students who live on campus, and this is their home, and they will be with us over the winter break as well. But for those who do not live here year-round and who would be returning, right now we're working on a testing protocol that would include quarantining, as we're doing now. And by starting 8 days later, it will give us an opportunity to be moving students in slowly rather than having them all come back at the same time. We're hoping to have a few more students living on campus housing this spring as well.
Does that have any financial ramifications? Would students be charged or their parents be charged more for living in a dorm starting with, say, I don't know, January 5th and school doesn't get out until May sometime?
We wouldn't have to move it up that early, but no, we would not charge more than we typically would in the semester. We're already getting a lot of pressure to actually bring costs to students and families down. We certainly wouldn't want to increase it.
Tammy Berry, do you have a quick comment before we take this to a vote?
Yes, I just had a question, and Mary Jo Gonzalez might have been the best person to answer, but perhaps you know, Provost Chilton, whether there has been substantial student input into this proposal, just even getting some representation of students, have they given any feedback? Because there was concern among my constituents that students would be really pushing back on this.
Yeah. So I first of all, Tri-Cities did poll their students directly. We are in the middle of a poll at the Faculty Senate help co-sponsor. Thank you to Greg Crouch. And we've gotten some feedback about their opinions about the spring semester. That's primarily, though, been around the remote versus in-person versus hybrid, which is interesting because it's actually spread all over. You know, you've got about 30% who say they want to be here in person and about 30% who say they absolutely do not want to be here in person. And then the rest are sort of like, I'm not sure, or have it be flexible. So we have polled students, and I have met with ASWSU for Pullman, Spokane, Vancouver, and Tri-Cities, as well as SGC. We have talked generally about, you know, their concerns concerning the spring 2021. I have not asked them to take a vote specifically on the academic calendar in a formal way. To be honest with you, there really hasn't been time. I mean, Dave Turnbull and I talked about this last Friday, And I got it to you quickly before, I think it was last Friday. I don't remember now, but
Thursday.
anyway,
Thursday.
sorry. So really, we have, we really put this to you all. First and foremost, it's really the Faculty Senate that should have, in my opinion, the greatest input into the academic calendar.
All right, we have about 30 seconds before we need to take a vote. Are there any other comments?
Just a quick question. Once the calendar is put in place, is there any flexibility to change it? Let's say we decide in a month's time to change it. Can it be done?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, it may have to be done depending on things that happen outside of our control.
All right.
Thanks.
Charles Weller, do you have anything?
No, you addressed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before we take this to a vote?
Would it be possible to amend bullet point 2 to say 3 or 4 days in order to be able to make it fair between the different class types?
Are you making a motion, Michael?
I would like to make that motion. I think it's a quick.
All right.
I'll second.
All
I'll
right,
accept
any
it as a
discussion?
friendly emotion. Can I do
Any
that? as-
discussion? Any discussion over the amendment made?
3 or 4.
Point of order?
3 or 4 days.
Point of
Brad,
order.
what do you have?
Given it's my amendment that we'd be voting on and the person made an amendment, can I accept that as a friendly amendment? We don't have to discuss it?
Nope. Any discussion? All right, all of those in favor to the amendment that would change the wording, identify and implement 3 or 4 one-day academic breaks, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All of those opposed to the amendment, please say nay. All right, the amendment passes. We need to take this to a vote, folks. We are now voting on the proposal in its entirety with all 3 of the amendments. And we need to do this through chat.
Yeah, let's do it using the yes, no. I think
Yes.
that would be the best
You
way.
need to vote using chat. Vote either yes, you're in favor of the proposal with the amendments, or no, you are opposed to the proposal. And the executive secretary will count those votes. And please do that quickly. We still have discussion items to get through today.
And please use the yes, no buttons
Please use the yes, no buttons.
that are above the chat.
Under participants.
It's in
They're in
participants,
participants.
not chat.
It's in participants, I apologize. And there's yes, no buttons. Yeah, we will use this in the future. This is working out very well.
Are we required to vote just once?
Yeah, you should only be voting once.
Okay.
It is overwhelmingly yes.
All right. The proposal to change the spring semester passes with the amendments. Thank you, folks. That was a wonderful discussion and
We have
debate.
54 yes and 3 no votes.
54 for and 3 against. All right, moving on to discussion items.
Thank you,
Discussion
everyone.
item. Thank you, Provost Chilton. Discussion item number 1, the recommendation from Academic Affairs Committee to approve the undergraduate bulletin number 1. Any discussion of this discussion item? Hearing none, we'll move to discussion item number 2, the recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the revision to Rule 67, dropping a course located in Exhibit 6A. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to constituents' concern. We have about 90 seconds. Do I hear any constituents' concerns? Echo.
Dave, I'll be very brief. Matt Carroll here. Some of my colleagues were quite concerned about the rapidity with which we've had to respond to the proposal about changing the way the funding is allocated with respect to grants,
EP2?
overhead for grants.
So noted. Any others? Folks, I really want to commend you for your work this afternoon. This was rough, it was grueling, but we made our way through this, and I'm really proud of this Senate. The conversation, the debate, it was sometimes heated, but it worked very well, and this is the way things work. And so my hat goes off to you. Thank you so very, very much, and we will see all of you in 2 weeks at the next Faculty Senate meeting.
Lessons learned about voting too.
Yeah.
Works out very well.
Yeah, and unless there's any opposition, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Nice job. Thanks.